I'm going to show you why this Ram 1500 doesn't actually have a locking transfer case. And I'm going to show you a truck with a true four-wheel drive locking transfer case. So stay tuned. Any true four-wheel drive vehicle with a true locking transfer case is going to bind up when you try and turn in four-wheel drive on dry pavement. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take this thing around the parking lot here and we're going to see if this thing binds up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to test my old Chevy, which I know has a true lock and transfer case, and we are going to see the difference between what happens with this truck and the Chevy. Don't do this at home. This is going to put a lot of stress on your drivetrain, as you'll see with the Chevy. It is not recommended to do this, but things to do for you guys. So we'll put this thing in two-wheel drive first and pay attention to the turning radius and how difficult it is to turn. And obviously if we have any wheel skip. Then we'll put it in four-wheel drive lock and we will compare the two. And then we'll get my Chevy out here and we will do the same thing. Compare that in two-wheel drive and in four-wheel drive. I'll show you guys the difference. It's pretty remarkable. So let's do that right now. Okay, so we are in two-wheel drive. Put her in drive. All right, first lap here in two-wheel drive. Okay, so that was two-wheel drive. Now we will put this thing in four-wheel drive lock and we'll see what happens. Now, as far as I can tell, the turning radius stays the exact same. We're in the old Chev. We are in two-wheel drive. Let's see what happens. Nice little turning radius. It's actually a lot sharper than the Rams, which is, I don't know why, but it just is. Now we are going to put this thing in four-wheel drive lock. Well, four-wheel drive high, sorry. So here we can really see the truck struggling to turn in four-wheel drive on dry pavement, especially in comparison to the Ram in four-wheel drive lock. So we can clearly see that the wheels were skipping. And you can even see on the tire itself, just the skid, well, not skid marks, but you can see this tire was slipping on this asphalt. So as far as I can tell, and we'll check on the cameras, this truck in two-wheel drive and in four-wheel drive lock didn't make a difference whatsoever. The turning radius stayed the same. There was no scuffing of the wheels. Pretty much sounded like that transfer case didn't actually lock up, compared to the Chev, which the turning radius was a lot bigger in four-wheel drive lock, which we would expect. And hopefully you guys could hear the engine having to work harder to force those wheels to turn because it did not want to turn. And you could even hear the pavement kind of scuffing along because that drive line was binding up. So let's dive into why exactly this is happening with this Ram 1500. So first things first, obviously you have a differential on your rear axle and a differential on your front axle. However, when you turn in a situation like this in four-wheel drive, there is differences in axle speeds between your rear axle and your front axle, and there needs to be something to take up that slack. And a transfer case that is truly locked is not going to take up that slack. And so that's why we see that Chevy really bind up and having to skip along, because that transfer case is not taking up any slack. It's a gear-on-gear mechanism, and that energy has to be put somewhere, and it's going to be put into the wheels, forcing them to skip. Whereas this Ram 1500, we didn't see any difference between two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive lock. Now, why is that? Well, I've made a couple videos on this topic. It involves this transfer case in this truck. It is a clutch pack transfer case. It's called the Borg-Warner 4444. Now, what that clutch pack transfer case allows is four-wheel drive auto. Obviously, when you're driving on the road, the front drive shaft can engage, and that clutch pack allows some slippage. However, when you are, let's say, off-road or in a situation like this, when the truck senses any heavy steering input, as well as potential differences in wheel speeds, the truck thinks that this truck is potentially in a spin-out condition and will actually actively cut power to the front drive shaft, which is not what you want. So that's great. You can drive this truck in four-wheel drive auto on basically dry pavement. I wouldn't recommend that, but you can without really hurting too much. But when it comes to off-road performance, you're gonna suffer a little bit. So you get a little bit better on-road performance and a little bit worse off-road performance. That being said, there is a little bit of a solution. What you wanna do if you are going off-road with this truck, with this transfer case. And if you're not sure what transfer case you have, it's very simple. If you have four-wheel drive auto, you have the BW 4444 with the clutch pack. If you don't have four-wheel drive auto, you have a true mechanical locking transfer case, which is better for off-road. Simple as that. But the best thing to do if you have this clutch pack transfer case and you're going off-road, turn off your electronic stability control. Hit the traction control button and hold it down for like 5 or 6 seconds, and you'll get a notification on the dash saying ESC system off. And this truck will become much more lively off-road. Apparently the clutch packs are fully locked at all times. The truck cannot have any electronic aids that will disengage the clutches. So we're in this parking lot on the dry pavement. We're gonna put this thing in four-wheel drive. We're gonna turn the ESC system off, and we're gonna see if this drive line actually binds up like the Chev did. And then we will know for sure if this transfer case does actually truly lock up, or if those clutches are just gonna slip when there is a lot of pressure on the drive line. So let's do that right now, and let's see what happens. Okay, so we will turn the traction control and the ESC system off. Bang, there we go. Okay, so now our transfer case should be fully locked up no matter what. If this transfer case were truly locked in four-wheel drive lock, the rear inside wheel should be forced to skip along, and we're just not seeing that, which would strongly indicate that this transfer case is just not locked up. Okay, well, to me, that seemed like there was actually no difference between four-wheel drive lock with the ESC system off and two-wheel drive turning on this pavement. Either this truck is smarter than we think, and it is actually still slightly disengaging those clutches to prevent, let's say, clutch wear, driveline wear, and so forth, or what's happening is the clutches are fully engaged and they are simply just slipping. I'm not sure. However, it does prove my point that this transfer case does not actually lock. Now, before everyone gets all upset, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit better on-road performance, a little bit worse off-road performance. A little bit. This truck is still very capable off-road. I have two open differentials and it still does perfectly fine. If you guys have seen my videos, I've been in deep snow. I'll link that video up there, pretty cool. And I'm gonna take this thing in a little bit of mud and I'll show you guys that footage right now, just to show everyone that this truck, despite having not really a locking transfer case, is still very effective when it comes to basically most off-road situations. This is my daily driver. I'll have to bring up my old Chevy up here and we can really thrash her around. But anyways, I hope you liked the video. And if you did, make sure to leave that thumbs up. And if you like cool stuff like this, maybe even think about subscribing. We'd love to have you guys on board. Anyways, we'll see you on the next frickin' video.